All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today in our interview series here at the Rice Report by Owen Shroyer from InfoWars, The War Room. If you guys do not watch this show, please start doing it. The topics we're going to cover here today, I don't even know what they're going to be. Owen is very well spoken in just about every vertical you can imagine, from wild conspiracy theory to government facts, finance. He's got his hands in just about everything. Owen, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Glad to make my debut. I've been hearing about your show, so glad to be here.
Oh, geez. I'm a little tiny guy. I'm the minnow in the lake.
Well,
But
you're making noise.
Oh boy. I'm getting banned. Not swatted yet at your level here, but holy cow, is that scary? Let's start there. You've been swatted. We had the incident with Jesse White. I'm in Texas. I'm in Dallas. You're in Austin. So we're not far from one another. This stuff is getting scary. What was that like?
And it would be one thing. I mean, I can talk about my experience, but with me, it's me. I do things. There's repercussions. I know what I got involved in when I started working at InfoWars, became a anti-government corruption talk show host. You know that there's going to be some price to pay, but now it's my family too. And I think that's actually more painful. The videos are quite stirring when you see the SWAT teams arriving at your door and them pointing guns at you and putting the lasers on your body and everything else. And then the aftermath of them tearing your house apart. That's personal, and that's kind of its own price to pay. But what's more hurtful is now them going after my family and having to hear from my family. And then when they contact you and say, well, what's going on? Where's the investigation and all this other stuff? And you have no answers. That's even worse. That's even more painful. Luckily, I can announce today, I did earlier, I broke this on my show. It does look like there's finally some movement here, at least from the federal government, as I'll be speaking to feds for the first time coming up later this week. It was basically told to me that this has been sitting at the DOJ, sitting on the desk at the DOJ since it happened. Literally the day after it happened, it's been sitting there, but finally has some movement. So I might have some more answers coming up later this week. We might have to play it close to the chest. I don't really know. But I think what's disgusting is the overall pattern we have of Democrat Party terrorism. And that's what it is. This has been going on. Really, it's been going on for decades. Really, it's been going on famously since Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground, which is the group that Barack Obama launched his presidential campaign. His political career came from that group. But nowadays, it's way more directed at individuals and personalities, people who are on the internet. And, it's not somebody who might be, worth hundreds of millions of dollars like a Sean Hannity that can live in a barricaded mansion and have teams of security and ride around in bulletproof, secure vehicles. It's littler guys like me. I don't have a bunch of money for armed guards 24/7 in a gigantic mansion with walls that are 20 feet tall. So people can't afford that. And these are the people that are being targeted now. But it's the larger pattern of Democrat Party terrorism that's been going on. It's been hyper escalating every time Trump has a political victory. And I don't know what it's going to take to stop it. Maybe the FBI, maybe the federal government, maybe the Trump administration can solve that issue, that riddle. But that's overall the bigger problem. So it's swatting, it's the terrorism on the streets, it's the terrorism at Tesla dealerships, at Tesla vehicles, individuals, Trump supporters, and it's gotten totally out of hand. It needs to be addressed as domestic terrorism because that's what it is.
I completely agree. Although I will say you touched on Tesla, and you have to be, I'm dumbfounded at the fact that now the left is now protesting electric vehicles and burning them. I mean, this is one of the more comical things that we found in the society that we're in right now. Serious topic, though, is you, as Sean Faresh, a bunch of other guys got swatted on the same day. Jesse White, obviously that tragedy ripples through the community. It like tremendously ripples through. And I'm sorry you guys have to go through that. So I'm going to move on from that topic because I'm sure you probably want to move on. And I'm excited to hear the
results. Well, yeah, I just want to correct the record. His name was Jamie White.
Jamie White, I'm sorry.
And the timing of all of it was obviously, it's there's never a good time for something like that. But on top of all the other drama, it just, it makes you wonder. It puts thoughts into your head you wish weren't there. But you just can't help it, unfortunately. And by the way, it's not just the left now against electric vehicles that they love so much. The left also went from being pro-free speech to anti-free speech. They went from being anti-war to being pro-war. And so I think the lesson here is that the left really doesn't have any principled beliefs except they're against you.
That's a pretty good way to put it. Pretty good way to put it. Yeah, sorry about that, Jamie White. Also saw one of your videos here, I'm an economist by nature. This is kind of what I break down and do. I try to extend into all the other areas: money, politics, religion. But I watched your video on tariffs, about 9.5 minutes. Started out fantastic, and you talked about the 5D chess that Trump is playing right now. And of course, there's a debate: is it really 5D chess? We don't know, right? We're not Trump. We're not sitting in his room. But you made a very good point in the tariff case. It is going to take kind of the Pirates of the Caribbean waging war against the entire world, where the entire world would have to wage war against America for these things to be impactful. Today was supposed to be Black Monday. Everyone online, you're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. All of Saturday and Sunday was just Monday's going to be the end of the world, this horrible thing. We saw like, 0.8% drop. We saw a positive day in the NASDAQ. Bitcoin was up, all these other things. When are people going to take a look at this? Even your 10-minute video, and you're not an economist. You are brilliant on these things, but you're not an economist. Most economists are divided in two parts: CNBC economists, and their job is to propagate propaganda. And then you have real economists who actually work in the real world. And all of us are saying, guys, this is like a 3 to 5, maybe a 6-month difficult range. And then you find yourself in this blissful world where Congress actually has ammunition to remove federal income tax, because that's the issue. It's not tariffs. It's the income tax in this country. Your video, if you could walk us through that very quickly, the way that you articulated it for people was just incredible.
Well, in summary, if you look at the first couple months, let's say the first 2 months of Trump's second term, and I think really, to be more accurate, it started after he got elected. So this was before he even got inaugurated. Trump focused on getting deals done and bringing investments into the United States of America. Now, he's paraded a lot of these people into the White House. Oracle famously did it in somewhat of a controversial announcement, bringing Ellison in with some of the other things he said about biotech, but also car manufacturers, microchip manufacturers, foreign investments from Japan. And so I believe the number, Howard Lutnick put it at $7 trillion, I believe. Correct. Is what Howard Lutnick said, was that we've committed $7 trillion. Now, ironically, it seems like, and it could have just been a coincidence, you might be more apt to answer this question, but it seems like right when the market cap in the stock market hit 7 trillion is when the losses kind of stopped. I don't know if that was just a coincidence. Yeah. But so the point is that the only way the United States loses this so-called trade war, which is not even a fair thing to say, but for the sake of this conversation, the only way it loses the trade war is if the entire world decides that they're going to go up against the United States of America. And it would take the entire world to do that. But that's not even possible, because Trump already has the $7 trillion in commitments, and the microprocessing, the chip factories and everything else, the car manufacturing. Because this has already been committed, then it's impossible. It's not going to happen. So that potential is already wiped off the board. Trump's already made the move to make sure that doesn't happen. Secondly, the United States is still the largest consumer market in the world. So these other manufacturing industries might be able to hold out for a certain amount of time in a commitment to a trade war, but eventually they're going to have to give in. Eventually they'll have to get in to come back into this country, and they'll have two options. One is to either pay the tariffs, which will greatly benefit the United States, or two, they'll have to manufacture in the United States, which will also greatly benefit the United States. So the whole thing is in place for the United States to benefit. And the reason why it's not fair to call it a trade war is because there has been an ongoing trade war, and it has been against the United States. Now, it hasn't seemed like a war because our leadership has basically been waving a white flag for decades and just saying, just rip us off. Just rip us off for trade. And I think a lot of that has to do with our politicians are selling us out and probably getting kickbacks with people like the Bidens and the Clintons. And I also think you have a certain, modern day liberal mindset of, well, America's the bad guy, so we should pay more than everybody else. Well, you know what? The American voters disagree with that. And the average American is sick of being sold out. And so all of this is coming back in. And I think if you take like a larger look at the stock market, you can tell it was overly inflated. And so there's different theories of thought as to why it was overly inflated. So the truth is it's coming back down to earth. But I think once it does, and I think that when the full Trump economic plan takes place with tax cuts, regulation cuts, energy unleashed, plus the tariffs, I think we're going to see a booming economy, the likes of which maybe we've never seen. Maybe many of us, if not any of us, have ever seen. You might have to go back to like the dot-com boom of the 90s. It was really on pace to do this in 2019, and then we got hit with the COVID pandemic shutting everything down.
Right.
But I think when you take a larger look at this, you can really see how the larger plan is going to work. And the one thing that's always been kind of a bugaboo to me that I wish Americans could understand is we could be so much more rich. We could have the best infrastructure. We could have the newest airports, the newest subways. I mean, you name it. We could have all of that. We see all these foreign countries doing it. We could be doing that. We could be building the best bridges and everything else. We've just been getting stolen from. We've been getting robbed. Part of it goes into what Doge is exposing as well. It'd be like trying to explain to somebody what a filet mignon steak tastes like when all they've had is like a McDonald's Happy Meal or something. You know, it's like, have you ever had a bone-in filet? Like, oh man, it's like, oh no, I've only had a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's like trying to explain to them, no, you could be having bone-in filet, medium rare with King's butter. You don't have to eat a McDonald's cheeseburger every day. So I think that we're going to find that out in about 6 months to a year. And then maybe once that foundation is laid, Trump's administration can go after some of the more difficult tasks, taking care of the Democrat terrorist party, taking care of the criminals that have sold us out, taking care of the fraud being exposed at Doge. Once you have Americans fat and happy, then I think it opens up the opportunity to kind of go after those things and not get as much pushback.
I couldn't agree more. And the depth of sellout in this country is well beyond most people's scope. So where I live, there's a toll road called the DNT, the Dallas North Tollway. Sounds totally legitimate. It's owned almost entirely by a Spanish private equity firm. So every time I pay a toll to go anywhere, that's going to Spain. The city of Chicago sold all the rights to their parking meters for 10 years, I think, to a private group out of the UAE. I don't think most Americans realize that this is happening. So there's 1.6, I think, billion. It has to be a billion. 1.6 billion a year in the city of Chicago. I lived there most of my life. The parking meters. If they shut down the street for a festival, they owe the amount of lost revenue to a foreign nation so that the city of Chicago could continue to be corrupt. So we're seeing this everywhere. There's two different toll roads in Washington state that I've identified that are owned, one by Spain, one by an Israeli group. You know, we have to be able to bring new income into this country through tariffs, which I actually don't think we will. To be honest with you, I think the purpose of tariffs is to get to a 0% trade environment. That opens up the door for drops the price of everything. It opens up all kinds of new revenue lines for American companies to export, which is how every nation thrives. And more importantly, it gives ammunition to Congress or to the conservatives in Congress who want to get rid of taxes. We can replace this income that with one direction with tariffs. After tariffs are gone, 0% environment, you now have high corporate profits. So you can tax corporations, which actually is a decent thing, and remove taxes from normal people. But this level of sellout in the country right now is something you guys cover at InfoWars literally all the time, 24/7. It must be very cool working with Alex Jones and seeing that stuff. And your own show is growing and just booming right now. But on the government corruption side of things and Doge, you know, there's two different factions right now. One of them is like, I love what Doge is doing. I'm going to expose Doge or expose the spending here through Doge, and the American people learn about it. It's fantastic. We're going to cut costs. There's the other side that says we're being groomed for AI governance. I kind of fall right in the middle. I love what Doge is doing, but I also kind of feel like we're going to AI governance. I know you've covered some of these topics in the past. What are your thoughts on Doge, the end result of Doge, the immediate sight, very easy to see, cost savings, exposure of corruption, good stuff. Do you think we restock the government with people, or do we go to a strictly AI system?
Yeah, this is a very interesting debate. And to me, I kind of fall back just from a framing standpoint. I fall back on the concept of a tool can be good or bad. I can use a hammer to build a house, or I can use a hammer to bash your skull in. Okay. The hammer itself is not bad, but it can be used for bad. It can be used for good. So I kind of look at AI the same way. You know, a lot of give and take in life is picking and choosing your battles. And so you look at concepts like globalism, which obviously has a negative connotation to it, and rightfully so, but that's because it's been used against us. The truth is, globalization is inevitable. As technology increases, the globe just shrinks. It's just true. I mean, you can go back, if you go back 4 generations, the abilities that you have to travel and communicate 4 generations ago, your great grandparents couldn't even fathom it. They couldn't even fathom it. And yet here you are, it's like commonplace to you. So that's globalization. And it's not inherently a bad thing that I can dial somebody up on the other side of the planet or do business with somebody on the other side of the planet. But it's a bad thing when then it becomes used to create a corporate global government that puts us all in this planetary system that can be used against us. So that's when it can be bad. So I think, I kind of look at that same application with AI. If AI can be used as a tool for humans to do things more efficiently, like running government and spotting waste, like there's these programs out now that I guess monitor your bank account activity, and they can ping it. And if something shows up that's, not your spending, they'll ping it and they'll say, hey, is this you, to stop for fraud? Or if you have these memberships, they'll ping these memberships and be like, okay, you have your Netflix, Amazon, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, I have these. And then one pops up, you're like, fan account membership. Oh, I don't know what this is. And it pings it and you're like, okay, I don't want this. You get rid of it. So it can be used for good. It can be used for bad. Maybe it's inevitable that something like that gets implemented for our government system. It's certainly going to be hard to argue against it. If Doge's work is as successful as I think it's going to be, or as it has been, it's going to be hard to argue against a system that has been used properly. But that's the one issue with a free market republic like we have, is that it does put a lot of burden on the individual for self-government. And when you don't take that burden seriously and you don't act responsibly with that burden, then you can become a slave very quickly. You can be deceived very quickly, and you can be used and abused by systems very quickly. And that's kind of where we've been at. We haven't really taken our duties as sovereign citizens in our free market republic seriously enough. So we have been stolen from, we have been robbed, we have had corrupt politicians, corrupt media, and we're slowly starting to turn it around. So I look at it and I say, and this is kind of the conclusion, I think, to your question. If Elon Musk starts, because I don't want to ever be merged with a machine. That sounds like hell on earth. That sounds like, I just look back at the 90s, and it's like the last definitive decade that we'll probably ever have is the 90s. I think it's the last definitive decade that has a vibe, a color, a feel, a sound. Everything else is just kind of merged now. Everything just kind of melts into one now. There probably will never be another definitive decade like there was in the 1990s. And so you think about where humanity is going, merging with machine. Well, if Musk can make a blind man see or a paralyzed man walk, how can I be against that? I can't. That's technology. That's inevitable, and it's going to be good. If I was blind and I could see again, if I was paralyzed, I could walk again. How can I stand against that? So, but then we have to be very cautious to make sure that it doesn't get used to control us, used to enslave us. And again, the burden falls on us. So I think it's inevitable. This technology is coming. We're probably 5-10 years away from it. Earth will never look the same. Quantum computing merged with AI is probably the biggest threat that we face, however it ends up being used. So it's like, do you even try to stand against this stuff that's inevitable? It's the movement, it's the momentum of capitalism and the free market. Or do you say, hey, let's be very cautionary about how we roll this stuff out, how we implement this stuff, knowing the potential disasters of it, very well covered in sci-fi movies since the 80s. And so I think that that's kind of where it goes. I don't think it's possible to stop it. I think it's inevitable. But there is a little bit of, it's a little depressing. I think it's fair to say it's a little depressing that eventually we're all going to basically turn into one singularity, as they put it. Because then it's not just a separatism of a definitive decade, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. It's like, well, what happens then to the individual? Is there even anything that separates an individual? Is there anything definitive? Is there a definitive characteristic about an individual, about a person anymore? Are we 10 years away from that? 20 years away from that? So that's the kind of stuff that I think we look at down the road. But you know what? I try not to think about that too much. We'll deal with that when the time comes. It's all part of God's plan anyway. I just want to save America right now so that we can have that debate in the future.
Oh, I completely agree. And you touched on it right there. The individualism will always remain through those who have faith. It's always going to be that way. It's so important to have that right now. But that singularity fear, you described this absolutely perfectly. A hammer is a weapon or a tool. And when you look at where we're at right now, this regime change that we're seeing in America, this sweeping nationalism, this overwhelming feeling of wanting to get back to that American spirit. You know, I was a product of the 80s and 90s as a kid, and America does not feel like that. I'm fortunate enough to live in a place where my kids can play outside and go around the neighborhood. That's just not the way it is. What you just stated is something I did in an interview earlier today. And we talk about these leaders and the change that they can bring. And Trump is like a resounding change agent, right? Like if government was a China shop, he's the ultimate bull. And having him in this model, and there's things I disagree with, and we can all disagree with things that Trump is doing and speak out about it because he's a populist leader. He listens to us. He's the first president in the history of my life that actually listens to the people and changes direction when we don't like what he's doing. So AI by itself, it's so important. We understand the importance of open sourced and decentralized. So it's not controlled by a Larry Ellison or a Sam Altman. And it's important that we speak out that if we're going to give governmental authority or oversight to someone in that arena, it certainly cannot be a Larry Ellison or a Sam Altman, right? These are not the right guys for the position, which is why I think he put them front and center day 2 of his administration. Kind of an alert to us that a new system's coming. Do you like these guys or not? And I don't think if you've researched either one of these two guys, you shouldn't be on their side. If you're a free market capitalist, freedom lover, these are not the guys. But the idea.
And by the way, Musk has been very outspoken against Sam Altman. He doesn't hide how he feels.
Yeah, he didn't mind calling him out right away, going, he doesn't have the money. He's just making this claim right now. So Elon definitely fighting that battle. He's an open source, decentralized guy too. That's a big thing moving forward. But this AI era of AI, I'm in the space. So I build, off-grid energy sites for this and mining and stuff like that. And being in this space, we get a chance to talk to a lot of the big people out there, a lot of the smartest people who are developing. Oh, God bless you. And in that process, we had a chance to speak with some of the best minds in AI, and some of the stuff that these guys are building. I think a little differently than you, Owen. I think that if we have the right structure of AI and the right people holding the hammer, so to speak, I think humanity changes for so much better. If we can remove all the little tedious things that we have to do every day, these little tiny things that suck away your day, and focus on beauty creation, free markets, things like that, I see a brighter future there. We got a couple minutes left, and I want to move into a couple topics in the next 8 minutes that I think there's so much stuff going on right now where people are either upside down, upset, upside doing backflips because they're so excited right now. Give me your perspective on the next year. Like financially, we kind of went through that. How does the American zeitgeist change in the next year? Because we've seen huge change really since July of last year. There was a big momentum change when Biden stepped away, and then you had the assassination attempts, and you've seen America gel together. America's lost. We're in a very difficult spot right now from a societal perspective. And you talk to a lot of people. You take calls in every day from around the country on live broadcasts. What is your kind of gut feeling for the next, call it 4 years? What is this Trump administration going to do? And I'm with you. Let's focus on the short term. But what are you seeing from the inside, from a journalist perspective, talking to all these different people? Are you seeing that the doom and gloom for me was over when he won? Like I said, Trump won. It's going to be reckless maybe for 6 months. It's going to be a little scary for 6 months. I'm really excited about the future of this country. And where do you see us moving here as a society as a whole?
I think if we have, and it won't be uninterrupted, that would be nearly impossible. But if we have a mostly organic political revolution, I think what happens is that the left wing maybe has 1 or 2 election cycles left. And if they are defeated, which they should be, then the Democrat Party as we know it will pretty much become obsolete, totally defunct, stuck in this strange wokeism of men and women's sports and everything else that comes along with it. And then the populist movement behind Donald Trump will kind of merge into 2 different right-wing movements. You'll kind of have your actual conservatives, like real conservatives, versus maybe more liberal conservatives, kind of your modern day Republican Party. And you'll have disagreements on things like foreign policy and war and stuff like that. Real political debates, real stuff, not can a man get pregnant, clown stuff. Not the borders closed, 10 million people just crossed stuff, but real stuff. That's if we can have a real unfettered, I think, organic political evolution these next 2 election cycles. I kind of see it going like that. As far as the individual is concerned, I look at things from the standpoint of potentials. I'm a big guy. I'm big into potential. I don't like seeing wasted potential. I don't like seeing wasted potential in my own life. I'm not perfect, but I don't like wasted potential in my own life. I don't like wasted potential in my friends, my family, my country, any of it. It bothers me. I don't like wasted potential. And so I think the mindset for people listening is get ready, prepare yourself for your full potential. Whatever that means for you, get ready to be able to unleash your full potential. Imagine it, and I guess you could say I do have some experience with this, but imagine you've been in a jail cell your entire life, and the door is about to swing open and you're about to be free. Imagine the appreciation that you have for all new things come available to you. Imagine the way you now look at your abilities and your potential compared to when you were sitting in a cage. You're going to go for everything. You're going to not waste a moment. You're not going to not take anything for granted. So I would say that's what you need to be preparing for individually. This is kind of maybe a small example, but I've never been in the stock market. I'm not a stock market guy. And mostly probably it's because I just don't really have the time. And I'm the kind of guy when I do something, I'm like all in. I don't like to half-ass things or just dip my toe in the water. I'm just like, if I do something, I like to go all in. But after seeing the fake panic and the dip, I couldn't help myself. For the first time ever, I got into the stock market after that panic sell and everything else. And I said, it's so clear to me where this is going. I'd be foolish not to do it.
Sure.
So it's kind of like the same thing. It's like we're about to have the utmost potential. We're about to unleash America's potential, exceptionalism again. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how we can fix our major metropolitan areas and everything they've turned into. But it's like the reason I use the stock market analogy, it's because I just sat here and looked at this and I was like, this is so clearly heading in one direction. This is if you're missing out on this, you're missing the bigger picture. To get involved now. And so that's what it's just like everything is about to be open. All the stuff that's been held back for us, energy, secrets of life, you might even say, secrets of human history, our own recent American history, all that. It's all about to be opened up. You can really unlock your potential. And so that's what I would prepare for. We might only get 2 or 4 years. This might be a 4-year window of time you get to do it. And then you got to reset everything again if we can't continue this momentum going politically. But that's kind of how I see doing it. Realize the opportunity sitting in front of you and then do everything you can to maximize it, because you don't know if you're going to get it again or if it's going to be permanent.
Well, congratulations, Owen. You just added, or you just subtracted about 8 years from your life by becoming a stock market investor day one. Good for you.
Well, I didn't even know how it works. I had to learn some things the hard way. Like there's different rules for day traders. So like I didn't know this stuff. So I had my buys put in over the weekend. They were waiting until the markets opened today, and then they kicked in as soon as the markets opened. And then once I saw that fake news story about the tariffs and then everything shot up, I was like, okay, I'm out. And so I did pretty well for my first day. But then I got pinged and it said, oh, if you make another trade, you're going to get shut out because you'll get marked as a day trader. I was like, oh, I didn't even know there were rules and regulations. So now I have to pause. So now I have to pause for a week, unfortunately, but already did good enough. But yeah, again, to me, it was just like, I didn't want to do it. I've never been interested in the stock market or anything like that. It was just like, okay, I know this is just ridiculous. I know what's happening. I know this whole panic is synthetic. I know everything is going to go back up eventually, maybe day 1, maybe day 101. Sure. Because like, I just know this is going to happen. I'd be a fool not to do it. So it's like, I saw the potential. I maximized it as well as I could with the information I had, and it paid off. So it's not like a big life-changing thing for me. It's just, that's the analogy. It's like, we know what is about to come. So act accordingly.
So jump in. Yeah, jump in. I think we're going to have a huge opportunity. So as we wrap up here, you led right into my final question. I believe right now, we just had some of the JFK files drop semi-redacted, right? So a lot of things were removed. Israel was finally exposed in these documents, which I think almost everyone knows is the case there, at least some involvement. We don't know for certain. But you and I, you've been doing this much more publicly than me. I've been involved in a lot of these stories of history. A lot of my episodes are retelling revisionist history, alternative versions of history. If we were to get this magic genie, we could rub a lamp and Owen could have any untold mystery of time in all human existence. If we could have that in the next 4 years, what would be the one thing that you just have to, that keeps you up at night? Like, you have to know what the truth is behind something. What would that one thing be?
Well, if I got one thing,
We'll do three. We'll do one is so hard. That's like what's your favorite movie? I have like, well, which category? Comedy or westerns, or let's call it three. Three things. Three things that you would love to know the real truth behind the most.
okay. I'd like to know, we kind of combine these things. I guess I'd like to know the real story of the megaliths. So I guess you could include the pyramids in that, but it's these ancient sculptures that just defy history as we're told it. Just doesn't make sense. And then a lot of the stuff in South America too. So the megaliths, how they were able to do this stuff without any modern day technology. I'd like to know the truth about that. I have my own theories, but yeah, I'd like to know the truth about that.
What are your theories?
Well, I think humanity, civilization gets reset about every 3,000 to 4,000 years. So we may or may not be the most technologically advanced, but there's proof of advanced life, advanced civilizations tens of thousands of years ago. And it seems like every 3,000 or 4,000 years, something happens. I don't know if that's sun cycles or if it's floods or anything, but that's pretty well documented by Graham Hancock.
Robert Moore's theory. It could be there too.
And others. Yeah. That. So that'd be one. Two, I guess, would have to be the truth about, and I don't want anybody putting me in a box here, okay? Because I'm not saying what I believe. I'm just saying I would like to know the truth about the size and scale and shape of the earth. Okay. I would like to know that. I'm not saying I think it's one thing or the other. I am saying I don't think we know the full truth behind it. I think that's still a mystery. And then three.
So I got to ask, I think the Earth is much larger than we're told. That's all I have to say. I think I would agree with that. Much larger than we're told.
I would agree with that, and I think even there's some evidence to that, and it has to do with the every 3,000 to 4,000 year cycles of human civilization kind of resetting. So I do think there's something being held secretive about that. Maybe somebody knows, maybe somebody doesn't. But I think definitely the history of Earth is not what we're told. I mean, the history of humanity is not what we're told either. Third, oh man, I don't know. I don't really go down these lines of thought too often. So I would just say I'd like to know what's underneath the Vatican. How about that? Just give me access to the Vatican. Let me see what kind of artifacts they have under there. I'd like to see that.
I think everyone needs to see that. I think that's a necessity of human disclosure. Those are good ones. Those are good ones, Owen. I have like 10 more on my own, but we're running out of time here. So, Owen, thank you so much for giving us this half hour right after your live, right before a live coming up on Rumble. Let everybody know who's not a fan already, how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you online, and the times and dates and all that good stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that. On X at Owen Shroyer 1776, you can find most, if not all, of my content there pretty much every day. OwenShroyer.show is the URL to my show on InfoWars, live weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time. And then I also have a Rumble channel I like to go live on, like I am after this, rumble.com/Owen. And glad to be here. Great interview.
Well, thank you so much, man. God bless you. God bless this country. And hopefully we'll see you on here again. That'd be awesome.
Sure thing. Thanks.